Part 63. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 645. Lin Chuxia, are you willing to help me? Huang Sui asked again. I don't want to. Chuxia shook her head, you can handle your own affairs by yourself. I won't interfere. Moreover, my position in everyone's hearts is not as important as you think. You still don't believe me? Yes, Chuxia did not deny it. If she completely believed it because of the other party's confession, it would be impossible. Huang Sui smiled helplessly, didn't you say it yourself? I'm not stupid enough to do that even though everyone has guessed it, so why don't you believe me? Those are two different things. How can they be two different things? Huang Sui stroked her forehead with a headache. What do you want me to do so that you can trust me and agree to help me? If you really marry your second brother as you said, everyone will definitely accept you over time. If you have other thoughts, no matter how deeply you hide them, everyone will definitely find out. On the contrary, you are so insistent on asking me to help, which makes me particularly confused. Really? Chuxia looked at her seriously, you don't have to be like this at all. My second brother is very clear about how obsessed with you are. As long as you are sincere, he will definitely pave the way for you smoothly. Well, I was indeed unnecessary. Huang Sui smiled helplessly, I am also obsessed with it. On the way, your second brother told me that everyone was worried that I would frame you, and he was particularly serious about it. He asked me if this was really the case, and said that if I really thought so and he found out, he would die with me. He looked very serious when he said that. I know he will do what he says. This shocked me how much he defended you, and also your status in the Lin family. But me? Not only do I hope that I can get married, but I also hope that when my parents encounter difficulties, the Lin family will reach out to help them. And I feel that the time when I encounter difficulties will not be too far away. I am afraid that with my own ability, it will be difficult for the Lin family to be willing to help me. That is why I have said so much and caused you to have no silver in this place. The feeling of 100 taels. Of course, you still may not believe what I say. Forget it, just do what you said and let nature take its course. I believe everyone will see me clearly. Yet Chuxia nodded and said nothing else. Huang Sui couldn't help but laugh, I found that your and Zhou Mixang's personalities are quite similar. They all cherish words like gold. Are you like this because of his influence, or are you always like this? Chuxia smiled faintly at her, this is not the first time we have met. Do you think your evaluation of me is really fair? Think about it briefly. Huang Sui smiled sheepishly, okay, I'm really a little confused today. In fact, you are very cheerful and talkative when you are with your friends. Is it because you don't like me? Well, she knows now. The so-called genius is someone who is very smart in some aspect. But in some aspects, it is still a bit speechless. Chuxia coughed, I can't say I like you, nor can I say I don't like you. In fact, to be honest, I had a good impression of you at the beginning, but there is still a long way to go before we can become friends. Huang Sui smiled at her, I can understand, but I was too impatient. In fact, you are luckier than me. Although your living environment was not very good when you were a child, your parents were very good. I don't mean to say this to make you happy. Although I don't have much dealings with them, I can tell you with certainty that no girl I know is so pampered by her parents. You are everything to them. This kind of completely selfless dedication is more precious than anything. Then, you meet a man who truly loves you, and relatives who are truly willing to help you, and there is nothing I can do about it. Compare with you. So Lin Chuxia, I envy you very much. Really, if I exchange everything I have achieved for everything you have, I would be very happy. Probably, you can't understand my feelings. Ever since you were a child, your loved ones have favored you more for profit than for blood ties. This feeling is very bad. Of course, when I say this, I don't mean that I want to take everything from you. I just want you to know how rich you are. Cherish it. I will cherish it. Chusia nodded. I know all this, but thank you for your affirmation of my father and my mother. I will tell them later, and they will be very happy. If my parents were as open-minded as them, nothing would happen to my eldest brother, and I wouldn't be in such a difficult situation. With a heavy sigh, Huang Sui looked at Chusia. Are you curious about what grandma talked to me about? Not curious, Chusia said. In fact, she was extremely curious, but she still knew who she should be curious in front of and who she should not be curious about. She believed that if she could tell everyone, her great-grandmother would definitely say it. If she couldn't tell everyone, then she didn't want to be the exception. Originally, her position in the Lin family was somewhat awkward. No matter how much everyone valued her, she could not fail to position herself correctly. Huang Sui stood up with a helpless smile. Okay, then I won't talk too much and go back, lest everyone worry that you will be bullied by me. Chu Xia stood up and stretched out his hand to signal the other party to go first. The two of them returned to the main hall in silence. Everyone looked at her. Huang Sui took the initiative to smile and said, I promise, I won't bully anyone at all. I didn't bully anyone either, Chu Xia also said quickly. She was talking to Lin Venhang. Lin Venhang smiled bitterly. Chu Xia, am I so useless to you as a brother? I'm just worried that you won't be happy. Yes, when I said I would talk to you, he was actually quite hesitant. He was afraid that what I said would make you unhappy and make everyone hate me even more, Huang Sui said, sitting next to Mrs. Lin and smiling at her. I said everything I wanted to say, and as you might expect, she didn't believe me. Mrs. Lin laughed and said, my Chu Xia is also very opinionated. Do you think she will be as soft-hearted as other children? Then she looked at Chu Xia and said, I talked to Xiao Huang. When I reach this age, yes, I originally didn't want to get involved in your junior affairs. However, if this incident is allowed to continue like this, it will affect the relationship between the whole family, so I must be the leader to handle this matter. In early summer, what she said to you was exactly what she said to me. After she finished speaking, I clearly told her that I would not express an opinion and it would depend on her future actions. She said that you are the key to this matter, so she wants to talk to you. If you are willing to help her, she hopes that I will not stop you. I agreed. But I told her at that time that her plan would definitely fail, but she didn't believe it. The results confirmed that Zhang is still as old as me. Huang Sui smiled and nodded. Yes, Grandma, Lin Chuxia has her own position. She always sticks to her position no matter what I say. Although she didn't agree to me, I am very happy. At least this can make me believe that in the future, even if someone says bad things about me and makes trouble in front of her, she will never be affected. Don't worry about this, I have my own judgment. Chu Xia smiled at Lin Venhang. Second brother, can you rest assured now? Don't worry, of course, sister, thank you. Tisk, tisk, this title suddenly seems so close. Chu Xia curled her lips. Second brother, I strongly despise you. Then she smiled at him again, but, congratulations, you finally got your wish. Yes, it's like a dream. Lin Venhang looked at Huang Sui with a dazed expression, and felt unreal. Where are eldest brother and Zhou Mixang? Chu Xia asked Zhao Yulan. I'm going to the study. Zhao Yulan pointed to the location of the study and whispered, your eldest brother really didn't tell you, Xia, you must help your eldest brother find a good girl. Chu Xia had a black streak, and her mother's words really made a big jump. Does Lin Wenbin look like a man who is not liked by girls? It's just that he hasn't let go yet and is unwilling to accept it, but he should be able to let it go now, right? In terms of age, Her eldest brother was really old enough to get married. Yuan Hui's appearance flashed in her mind. Or could she help pull the strings? Anyway, since Yuan Hui met Lin Wenbin that time, every time she went to the day shift, she would go to the laboratory to do experiments with her. She didn't believe that he was so eager to learn. He just wanted to get close to her and chat with her, okay. And intentionally or unintentionally, she would always ask her about the Lin family in Beijing. In fact, the only person she really wanted to pay attention to was Lin Wenbin. The matter between Huang Sui and Lin Venhang was basically a foregone conclusion. It was impossible to tell whose guess was more accurate immediately, but at least a conclusion had been reached, and Lin Baohe took the initiative to leave. Although they had originally agreed to go back on this day, everyone was a little anxious because of the incident between Huang Sui and Lin Venhang, and they did not sit down together and have a friendly chat. They were worried about letting Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan leave like this. If the couple were to come in the future, there would be many objections, so a group of elders tried their best to persuade them to stay, asking the whole family to leave early the next morning. Anyway, it was only a 2-hour journey from the capital to City A, so Luo would definitely not be delayed. A matter of family. There was no other way, so Lin Baohe had no choice but to come down, and the family stayed for another night. Although one night can't solve the fundamental problem, it can at least restore the relationship that has faded a little. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan looked at the elders who were cautiously trying to please them and smiling at them. Their original decision was shaken. Finally, before the old lady could say anything, the couple took the initiative and promised that they would definitely come over during the holidays in the future. This is what makes all the elders of the Lin family in Beijing really feel relieved. To be continued. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 646. Dear friends, there is something about a dragon boat race under the title of the book. If you have the ability, please give Nuan 1 vote, 2 votes, and 3 votes. That night, Huang Sui stayed at the Lin family's house. To be honest, her decision surprised everyone, including Lin Venhang. You must know that staying here meant that she had no way out. I found that genius ideas are really not something that ordinary people can figure out. After returning to the room, Chu Xia said to Zhou Mikang in confusion, obviously she herself said she wanted to give it a try with her second brother, but what she is doing now, my son is 100% planning to marry his second brother, is my understanding correct? Zhou Mikang nodded, your understanding is correct, and this should be considered absolutely good news for Lin Venhang. That's true, but the second aunt is not so happy, and the eldest brother should also feel uncomfortable. Hey! Sighed, Chu Xia looked confused. The eldest brother has been so good to me, which makes me feel like I can't repay him. A feeling of that you are well and safe is the greatest reward for him. Zhou Mikang said, rubbing her head, he is good to you and doesn't intend to get anything in return. If he knows that you think so, what will he do? Angry. I'm just going to say it in front of you. I definitely won't say that in front of him. Chu Xia smiled flatteringly, you definitely won't tell my eldest brother, huh? Zhou Mikang slapped her on the butt, what the hell, hurry up and take a shower, or you won't be able to get up again tomorrow morning. Yes, Chu Xia picked up her pajamas and floated into the bathroom like a gust of wind. I can see that Zhou Mikang has a dark streak. Is he such an unreliable person? Is she guarding him like a thief? And in fact, is Lin Venhang really as happy as Chu Xia and Zhou Mikang guessed? Not really. He wasn't sure whether Huang Sui's love for him was true, so if the other party moves forward cautiously, he can still have some confidence, but if he reaches this step all of a sudden, he will completely lose his ability to distinguish. He likes Huang Sui and dreams of marrying her, but there is a prerequisite, he hopes that she sincerely wants to marry him and has a little bit of affection for him. But now, Huang Sui does this. It made him feel like the other person was risking everything. He really didn't want to be with him, which was the compromise Huang Sui had to make. It was just 9:30, and Huang Sui was probably still asleep, so he hesitated whether to go and talk to the other party. Before he could come up with a result, the door knocked, and it was Huang Sui. He looked at each other blankly. My brain became even more mushy. "Don't let me in," Huang Sui smiled at him. "I have something to tell you." "Please come in." Lin Venhang quickly stepped out of the way, closed the door, followed the other person to the coffee table, and hesitated. He sat down slightly away from the other party. "What are you doing? Are you afraid that I will eat you?" Huang Sui shook his head with a smile. "It's so awkward for me to talk to you when you sit there, sitting opposite me." "Yes." Lin Venhang obediently moved to the opposite side of Huang Sui. I quickly got up and went to get a cup to fill with water. I was so excited. Water spilled all over the coffee table, so I hurriedly went to get a rag. Watching his clumsy and flustered work, Huang Sui always smiled faintly. When he finally sat down again, she said, "I just realized now that you are still very funny." "Haha." Lin Venhang laughed twice, not knowing what to say. "Are you particularly surprised by my transformation?" Huang Sui said straight to the point. "Yes." Lin Venhang looked at her seriously. "I like you, very much, but if you are forced, I don't want to take advantage of you." "I'm not forced. I really like the atmosphere of your home." "Lin Venhang, you have never been to my home. Ever since my eldest brother's accident, I'm afraid of being with my parents." That kind of silence. A pause. Huang Sui sighed heavily. That kind of silence makes people feel suffocated. "I am very happy to be at your house today. Although I am still explaining and not being recognized, the atmosphere in your house is good and makes me feel very comfortable. Even for a while, when the atmosphere was not very good, it was many times better than my family. I had already decided to go home, but suddenly, I felt that I wanted to marry into your family, and then I stayed. Came down. I believe that everyone is puzzled by my decision, and may even look down on me. However, this is my personality. Once I make a decision, I will no longer be procrastinating. Lin Venhang, I tell you clearly that I, Huang Sui, am determined to marry you. Although I only have a good impression of you now, I believe that given time, I will truly fall in love with you. I have this confidence. Ever since I was a child, there is nothing I can't do if I want to do it. Lin Venhang, this is my proposal to you, do you accept it?" Lin Venhang. His brain was completely short-circuited. He heard every word of what the other person said clearly, but he couldn't believe the meaning of those words combined. "Hey, what do you mean?" Huang Sui pushed him. "I took the initiative to propose to you, and this is your attitude? Is it possible that you still dislike me?" "No, no, no." Lin Venhang waved his hands urgently, took a long breath to calm down, and then said in disbelief, "Aren't you kidding me? Am I such a boring person?" "But..." Lin Venhang looked at her hesitantly. "Did you make this decision too quickly? Are you sure you have thought it through?" Huang Sui nodded affirmatively. "I'm sure that some decisions are made in a single thought, including marriage. Is there any other reason?" "Yes." Huang Sui looked at him seriously. "You know, in the next work, you will often deal with Zhou Mixang, and gossip will naturally be inevitable, which will definitely cause confusion for everyone. Now that I have decided, I will put an end to this situation. We will write the certificate tomorrow and register the marriage as quickly as possible." Lin Venhang shook his head vigorously. Happiness came too suddenly, and he had to calm down. After a long silence, Lin Venhang nodded. "Okay, I agree. This fulfills our position after marriage." I listen to you and it is for sure. I'm not unreasonable. If we have something to discuss, whoever is right will listen to whoever is right. Huang Sui smiled at him. I will tell everyone the news tomorrow morning. I am here in such a hurry just because I hope my second uncle and second aunt can know this. Leave after hearing the news. Okay, I will tell everyone early tomorrow morning. Lin Venhang nodded again and emphasized, I will definitely tell everyone early tomorrow morning. Is that woman really going to marry Lin Venhang? When Lin Wenbin said this for the nth time, Zhou Mikang finally became impatient. Do you want to go back and find Lin Venhang to confirm again? That's not necessary. Lin Wenbin waved his hand and turned back to look at Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan, second uncle and second aunt, but this can be considered good news, right? Lin Baohe sighed, if she is sincere, it is good news. If she is not sincere, it will be unfair to Wenhang's child. He chose it by himself. Whether it's fair or unfair, he'll have to live with it. After saying this, Lin Wenbin couldn't help but sigh. Chu Xia looked at him helplessly. Brother, look at you, you are obviously worried about the second brother, but in front of the second brother, you still have to pretend like a cockfighting. It really makes you worried to death. If I were nice to him, he would be even more troubled. In this way, he would still have something to worry about. Lin Wenbin changed the subject as he spoke. Xia, have you thought about your matter? He was talking about joining the Women's Pre-War Medical Corps. Think about it, let it take its course. If I'm qualified, I'll go. If I'm unqualified, I won't go. Besides, aren't everyone doubting Huang Sui's motive for marrying into the Lin family? Isn't this just right? Can you verify this? She said she loved talents and wanted to train me with that kind of special training. She said I debuted a little late. If I followed the steps step by step, it would take at least 5 years to become an apprentice. If I use this kind of special training, this method can shorten the time by at least 2 years. To be honest, this statement makes me very excited. I want to try it. Lin Wenbin snorted coldly, look, that woman is very scheming. She just said this because she knew she could use this method to make you obey. Brother, we are not fools. If we do nothing because we are worried, then I will really become a fool in the end. I really think that a woman must have her own life and career in order for men to respect her more. Even though the head of the group treats me well now, if I stay at home as a housewife for a few years, you will see if he will still be willing to look at me more. If he dares to do anything sorry to you, I will kill him. If you don't believe me, he can give it a try. Lin Wenbin said, poking Zhou Mikang, did you hear that? I'm not deaf. Zhou Mixang rolled his eyes at him, she is deliberately diverting the fire. Do you really believe it? I think you really need to practice hard. Of course I know she's trying to divert my attention, but what she said makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to say something ugly first, so don't think I didn't say hello to you then. Lin Wenbin looked at Chu Xia again, you two don't get too happy too soon, I will keep an eye on your matter, and if you really want to participate, I will definitely accompany you. Brother. Chu Xia looked at him helplessly. She really had nothing to do with him. Zhou Mikang wasn't so nervous about her. Okay. What I have decided will not change. Lin Wenbin waved his hand at her, unless you change your mind, otherwise, it is impossible for me to change my mind. What's the difference? Chu Xia was really speechless. In fact, she didn't really want to go to the battlefield. She was not stupid. Of course she knew it was not a fun place. However, because she is familiar with some things, she hopes to stay with Zhou Mixang. In fact, she is also very torn between staying with him and fearing that her parents will worry. In short, she is still in a mess here. How can you give Lin Wenbin an exact answer? To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 647. Although it was the old lady's 9th birthday, it was not held in a particularly grand manner. Zhang Dada made the opening remarks and invited several male and female guests with relatively high status to the stage to say a few words. It has entered a situation where each table is a camp. In the middle of the meal, a man in his 40s came on stage and sang "The East is Red" for the old lady. All the guests sang along, and the atmosphere suddenly became lively. Then, regardless of whether they sang well or spoke well, they took turns performing on the stage, making the old lady happy, and also went on stage to perform a martial arts performance for everyone. An old lady in her 90s stood upright on the stage and flexibly performed her boxing skills, making everyone unable to move. Warm applause came one after another, and it felt like the roof was being lifted. After the old lady made the final finishing moves, Grandma Zhang and Zhangde quickly went to help her. The old lady threw her hand away, with a look of displeasure on her face. "I'm not old enough to move." Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. There was a brief silence, and the audience immediately burst into laughter. Zhangde smiled. "Mom, we know you are still young. Isn't this just to show our respect, so we rushed over to help you?" "No, you can pet me when I'm old and have trouble walking." The old lady walked towards the main table in a vigorous manner, smiling even more happily. At this time, Huang Sui walked onto the stage and said into the microphone, "Today is Mrs. Jiang's 96th birthday. I am lucky enough to be able to attend. I am very happy. Next, I will play a song for Mrs. Jiang, Liu Yang River. I hope Grandma Jiang will like it." Whoa! 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 Warm applause rang out. This legendary girl, no matter whether she was older or younger, all had an instinctive respect for her, the respect of others. Sitting in front of the piano, he turned around and smiled at everyone. His fingertips fell on the keys, and the beautiful and smooth melody of Liu Yang River sounded. Even if he couldn't sing, he had listened to the song many times. Under Huang Sui's skillful singing after the performance, many people began to hum along unconsciously. Different from the previous ones, this time it was more of a warm feeling. Feeling that everyone's emotions were rising, Huang Sui played it again after playing it once before giving up. When she came off the stage, she naturally won the same warm applause as the old lady's previous performance. Well, if only I had this talent. Zhang Feng, who was sitting next to Chu Xia, looked envious. God loves her so much. She is so smart, has such good medical skills, and is even good at playing the piano. I heard that she can sing and dance well. Chu Xia said sincerely, "That's really an all-rounder." Third sister-in-law, Zhang Shan returned hurriedly and winked at Chu Xia. "Come with me to the toilet, okay?" "Okay." Chu Xia stood up. Zhang Feng pulled Zhang Shan displeased and said, "You're so annoying. Why do you need your third sister-in-law to accompany you when you go to the toilet?" Zhang Shan looked anxious. "Don't make trouble, I can't hold it in anymore." Zhang Feng glared at her. "You can't hold it in any longer and you still come to see sister-in-law 3. Comrade Lin Chuxia, please don't leave, okay?" Just as Chu Xia followed Zhang Shan to the center of the hall, Yamiru's voice came over. Zhang Shan pulled Chu Xia hard and whispered, "Go quickly, leave her alone." After hesitating, Chuxia continued to walk out following Zhang Shan's footsteps, but Yamiru would not let her go, so she also increased her voice. "Lin Chuxia, are you scared? Do you want to run away?" At this moment, everyone turned their attention to Chu Xia. Of course, many people couldn't figure out who Lin Chuxia was. However, to be named in this way, it must be Jier. He has the habit of watching the excitement. Most people have the habit of getting more excited when watching the excitement, and most of them have it. Mrs. Zhou frowned when Yamiru came on stage and called out Chu Xia's name. She really didn't expect that Yamiru would do such a crazy thing. However, then I thought it was not surprising. A girl who can do so many shameless things, what else can't she do? But now she didn't know what Yamiru was going to do, so she didn't say anything. Zhongshan was still pulling Chuxia out hard. Zhongshan, stop, Chuxia said. Third sister-in-law Zhongshan winked at her anxiously, meaning to leave her alone and leave with her. It's okay, Chuxia smiled at her, running away has never been my style. I'd like to see what she's going to do. She turned around and stared at Yamiru on the stage, signaling, continued. Everyone knows that once, I almost became Zhou Kang's wife, but at that time I was too young and too ignorant, and I did a lot of things that hurt him and myself. Later, I regretted it, but if I missed it, I would miss it, and I could never go back to the past. The result of my efforts was that I completely lost him. He got married so suddenly. I believe this surprised everyone. In fact, it was not unexpected. He was just still angry with me, so he wanted to take revenge on me. I felt very guilty. If she had married a high-quality woman like Huang Sui, the dim girl, I would have been happy for her. But unfortunately not, she married a rural girl from the countryside. I tried to stop him, hoping that he would not give up on himself and treat his lifelong affairs with caution, but the result was, as you can imagine, he wouldn't listen at all. What right does a rural woman with no culture, no expertise, and no background have to make fun of a woman from an aristocratic family who has culture, expertise, background, and music? I originally thought that her behavior only meant that she was vulgar but could not accept elegance. Unexpectedly, I just found out that Comrade Lin Chuxia is also a master of music. So, can we all enjoy it on my great-grandma's birthday? In this way, the big guys in this circle will forgive you for being unreasonable at that time. Otherwise, you are despising everyone in our circle. Is this a stupid person? Chuxia stroked her forehead speechlessly. Before she could speak, Lin Yangqiu strode onto the stage and glared at Yamiru. Are you going too far? We, the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family, need you to say something. 4. Yamiru smiled at her. Auntie, I know you don't like me, but for your son's happiness, you can't just take care of your own emotions, right? Mrs. Zhou stood up and said word by word, if you admit your mistake now, I can forgive you, otherwise, you will always be on the blacklist of the Zhou family who are not welcome in my family. So that's the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family's mistress. Yes, I heard before that he married a rural girl. Now it seems that he is really good looking and has a good temperament, but I don't know if he is really as idiot as Yamiru said. Who knows, no matter what happens to the children in this rural area, they still need education, right? Oh, that's right. Anyway, I've always felt that the Zhou family's mistress got married a little too hastily. Maybe it's like what the family girl said. Just to make her angry, she deliberately married someone who is not as good as her. How can a marriage be such a trivial matter? That's right. While watching the excitement and talking, they seemed to have forgotten who was the protagonist today. Grandma Jiang's face turned red with anger, and she looked at Grandma Jiang. Mom, why do you think the family raised such an ignorant person? Why don't we just kick her out? No need. Mrs. Jiang waved her hand. You kicked her out, and the mistress's face won't look good. The mistress has her own tricks on this matter. Grandma Jiang looked at the old lady in disbelief. How did you tell? I've lived 96 years. Grandma Jiang has black lines all over her head. Can you see anything at the age of 96? However, the anger in my heart was no longer as strong as before, so she pulled old Mrs. Zhou and whispered, my mother-in-law said that your grandson-in-law is well informed, so there is no need to be too hasty. Mrs. Zhou nodded at her. I know. You know, Grandma Jiang asked back. The thousands of people at the main table looked at Mrs. Zhou. Obviously, everyone was full of doubts. If we solve it once, she won't be able to make trouble again in the future. This time, she will definitely be the one who regrets it. Who else wants to get involved? It just so happens that we can solve it together. As if to verify Mrs. Zhou's words, Lin Yangqiu's rival, Qin Zionji, stood up and said loudly, "Yangqiu, what are you doing with the children? If your daughter-in-law doesn't know how to play, let my daughter-in-law help. She will never embarrass you in this regard." As she spoke, she pulled Lu Fu, who was sitting next to her, and pushed her up. Lu Fu stepped back and said, "Mom, let's not get involved in this matter. You kid, Mom is asking you to help, how could it be a mix-up?" Qin Zionji said as she pushed her up. "The Zhou family was out of town some time ago, it was Mom who helped them and rented the house to them. I've helped you once, so I'll help you again, so go quickly." Mom Lu Fu frowned. She really didn't want to get involved with her mother-in-law. If her fiancé hadn't insisted on her coming with him, she wouldn't have come. "You kid, you don't even listen to what your mother says. What's the point of getting married in the future?" Qin Zionji whispered a threat in her ear and pinched her again. While doing all this, Qin Zionji kept a smile on her face. In everyone's eyes, she was discussing things with her daughter-in-law with a smile. When things got to this point, she had no choice but to step forward. Chu Xia sighed and walked up to the stage. Zhang Shan followed her with a worried look on her face, trying to pull her back, but she also knew that at this time, even if the performance was not good, it would be better than retreating. Alas, it's a pity that she is not good at this aspect, otherwise, she can play with the third sister-in-law as a matter of course, alas. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 648. Zhao Yulan stuck her matchbox in her mouth and never closed her mouth. The more she thought about it, the happier she became. She couldn't help but poke Lin Baohe, we are so lucky. Crazy/watching novel/saying. That's right, Lin Baohe also smiled beautifully. It's not a blessing to have a filial daughter and a filial son-in-law. Yes, you said that when our Xia was born, she was as weak as a kitten when she cried. Mrs. Zhong said that Xia was difficult to raise and she was unlucky judging by her face. She said that her Zhong Hongying so good, so good. As a result, how is our Xia not better than her Zhong Hongying now? In terms of work and marriage, can she compare? I wonder if she will dare to speak ill of our Xia in front of me in the future. This person is retribution. Look at you. Lin Baohe quickly patted his wife on the back. It's not nice of you to do this. Our daughter is lucky, that's our blessing. Why do you care whether Zhong Hongying is lucky or not? I'm not angry. She always talks bad about our Xia in the village. She pretends that I don't know. She says that others don't dare to say it, so she bullies us to be honest. I have been holding my breath in my heart. Let me tell you, her family Zhong Hongying asked her to teach her to be blind. In fact, the child was capable and sensible when he was young. How could he be so snobbish like now? Hey, Lin Baohe sighed, that child was made blind by her mother. If the parents have a bad temper, the child will be really unlucky. After we go back, if Mrs. Zhong knows what's going on, she will definitely come to us for help. At that time, we can't agree. We can't embarrass Xia. You don't have to say that, I'm not stupid. Zhao Yulan glared at her husband. Do you think I will respond as soon as I loose my mouth just to show off our Xia's ability? Do you think I'm stupid? Yes. It is my son-in-law who is capable, how can I make it difficult for my daughter? When my daughter becomes capable, I will no longer hide it. I will let them see that my daughter relies on her own ability. Let us enjoy it. Lin Baohe thought for a while and then said, I think we can't always talk about letting her go out in front of our daughter in the future. We can't force the child and force her out. We have no regrets. You say yes. Ah, After being stunned for a while, Zhao Yulan patted her chest in fear. Thank you for reminding me that I am planning to leave now. I will talk to Xia again. Hey, this person is so healed that her scars have forgotten the pain. You said that when Xia was ignorant before, when did we dare to force her to be successful? Now that she is really successful, we will force her every day. You said, what if we do it? What should I do if my child forces me to go back again? Lin Baohe sighed, no. We are both in a daze now. We should go back and take good care of the child and tell her not to worry. Even if she has no future, we have made arrangements in our hometown to come and accompany her. We are still living with Uncle Juan and making matches. A box is not considered a free meal. Okay, that's it. Let's talk to her tonight. Let's forget about it tonight. Xiaomi will go on a business trip tomorrow, so that the two children can benefit. I heard that this business trip will be quite long. The two children will not be together for a long time. It will be a while if we can spend more time together. Don't cause any trouble, please. On a business trip, Zhao Yulan slapped her forehead fiercely. Yes. Arcia seemed to have said that Xiaomi was going on a business trip. Why didn't I take it seriously? Do you think Xiaomi would feel, my mother-in-law doesn't care about him? Oh. Zhao Yulan patted her knees with a look of annoyance on her face. Okay. Lin Baohe quickly comforted his wife. Xiaomi is a big-hearted child and won't be so petty. When they come over in the evening, you can show some concern and let the young couple go back to rest early. Tomorrow morning you can make some of your specialty green onion pancakes. Xiaomi is the best. I love the scallion pancakes you made. Bake more and bring them to him. Is this possible? Okay, specify the line. What are you talking about? It's so lively. Mr. Wan, who had just woken up from his nap, came over with a smile. People just can't do it when they get old. If you don't take a nap, you'll lose energy. You are a cultural person, how can you be like us rough guys? Zhao Yulan said as she stood up to make honey water for the old man. Lin Baohe continued the old man's question and answered, Uncle Wan, Yulan was confused at noon. I'm so confused that I didn't understand that Xiaomi is going on a business trip. I'm going to regret it now. I think Xiaomi really likes the scallion pancakes she bakes. I'll make some for Xiaomi to take with me tomorrow morning. It's a good idea. Zhao Yulan, who came out with water, said with a grimace, Uncle Wan, you said I'm confused. Hey, at that time I was only thinking that I couldn't take so many things back from the Zhou family, so my mind didn't turn around, and I said later I forgot about it as I said it. This makes people see that I am not my own child. If Xia is on a business trip, can I forget about it? Mr. Wan took the water and took a sip, and said with a chuckle, you two are good at everything, but you are too strict in dealing with things. Let's just say those things the children bought you today. What's going on with the Zhou family? I told you before that people really don't think too much about those things. It's you who think too much. Of course, you think about Chu Xia and don't want Chu Xia to be difficult in her husband's family. You are absolutely good parents. However, if you think too much, your husband's family will feel that you don't treat them as a family. You are just a daughter like Chu Xia, and you will definitely have to rely on your daughter for your retirement in the future, right? If you say that, you and the Zhou family are really a family, right? But as for you, you always don't want to take advantage of the Zhou family, and you are always afraid that the Zhou family looks down on Chu Xia because of you. It was right to think so before, and it is also right to pay more attention to it. But now that you have been with the Zhou family for so long and understand what kind of people they are, you should no longer be so rigid. When the Zhou family was in trouble, you not only did not drag the Zhou family down, but also helped the Zhou family a lot. If the Zhou family had not been rehabilitated so quickly this time, the the Zhou family might have to rely on you too to support them. If that's really the case, because you support the Zhou family, will you look down upon them? Zhao Yulan waved her hands quickly. How can we do that? When someone is in trouble, we should help. How can we show off to others? Isn't this the end of it? You can't show off to others. How can someone show you off just because they've benefited from your daughter's glory? If you don't share will and woe, they may think of you as the kind of parents who take advantage of their daughter. However, after getting along with each other some time ago, do you think they will think that way? The couple looked at each other and shook their heads. This is over. What they want to do now is to help you to the best of their ability and make you live happily. The Zhou family is grateful from the bottom of my heart for your performance in times of adversity. If you still refuse now, people will really think that you are not on the same page as them. From now on, the children's filial piety will be continued, and there is no need to worry about it, and there is no need to push it out in a panic. That is not good for the children, but makes it difficult for the children. The couple was a bit confused, but they were too embarrassed to directly refute Mr. Wang, so they were stunned and didn't know what to say. Let me put it this way, if Chu Xia wears new clothes and you wear patched clothes, and Chu Xia eats white flour steamed buns and you eat black steamed buns, do you think Chu Xia will be happy? The couple said in unison without thinking, no. But that's what you're doing now. Uncle Wan. Zhao Yulan looked confused. I understand a little bit what you mean. That is to say, a little leakage from the fingers of the Zhou family can make our couple live a prosperous life. Don't worry about us in early summer. But Uncle Wan, we really can't get over the hurdle in our hearts. People may not notice what they miss, but for us, no matter how busy we are in this life, we can't get through it. Wan Lao looked at Lin Baohe. You think so too? No, the doubts in Lin Baohe's eyes disappeared, and his eyes became clearer. Obviously, Uncle Wan, I understand, we can't compare with the Zhou family by our standards. They do that to make Chu Xia feel at ease. We do this to put Chu Xia at ease. Speaking of which, the purpose of both of us doing this is the same, but for Chu Xia, she can really feel at ease if we live well. Originally, Yulan and I had discussed that after we settled down in our hometown, we would come back and live with Uncle Wan. We would also make matchboxes. Uncle Wan, please don't bother us. That's good, I am, but I hope you can come and keep me company. Mr. Wan said and laughed. Why do I feel that when I advise you, it seems that I want you to come back and support me in my old age? So come to think of it, am I too selfish? Lin Baohe smiled sheepishly. Uncle Wan, I know you said this because you were worried that we would not feel at ease here. Don't worry, I have really figured it out. Yulan hasn't figured it out yet, so I will persuade her. You mean, we will take whatever the Zhou family gives us in the future? Zhao Yulan looked at her husband with a confused look on her face. She still couldn't accept this. Didn't you realize that the Zhou family had considered giving us things that we shouldn't have, so they would definitely not give them to us to embarrass us? It doesn't mean that we can accept it with peace of mind when someone gives it to us. I mean, we can use other things to repay it. Of course, if we repay it according to the value of the thing given, we will never be able to repay it. That's our sincerity. As long as we try our best. Just follow your heart. How can that be done? Zhao Yulan immediately objected. How can others appreciate our little kindness? If you want others to be rare, even if you sell yourself for something, they won't be surprised. The difference between our two families is huge. If we have to compare with others in terms of conditions, then we should let Xia marry someone. If we don't have anything at home, we won't owe anyone anything for the rest of our lives. But are you willing to do it? What nonsense are you talking about? Zhao Yulan stared at her husband with some annoyance. We Xia can't work in the first place. If we marry someone with nothing, how will we live? Isn't that quite understandable? Lin Baohe laughed. you said you still want your daughter to live a good life, and you also want your husband's family to think that our family is just like others. Isn't that just trying to make a fool of yourself? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 649. Updated today. Get in the car, Joe Mikang frowned and glared at Lugo Hunky, hurry up. Yes, in response, Lugo Hunky quickly climbed into the car and sat upright. Chu Xia couldn't help but poke him, weren't you quite comfortable in front of him before? What kind of nerve did you get wrong today? Lugo Hunky's face flushed red, this is my private matter. Chu Xia glared at him dissatisfied, hey, he's quite individual, okay, why don't we just ask about your private affairs? You deserve to be exhausted. Lugo Xiaoxian patted her shoulder with a funny look on her face, you misunderstood what my brother meant. He meant that what he came to do today was his private matter, and he felt bad about letting Captain Joe do the work. Is this what you mean? Chu Xia looked at Lugo Hunky and asked. Okay, then I just wronged you. Chu Xia looked at him helplessly, you said you can't speak more clearly? Fortunately Xiaoxian is here, otherwise I would have misunderstood you all the time. Already. His dull personality has been gone for a long time. It would be great if he could really change. Lugo Xiaoxian looked at Zhang Erniu, sister-in-law, you have seen what happened today. If something similar happens in the future, you must chase him and ask him to explain clearly to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. Zhang Erniu nodded, yes, I know. At this time, a crowd of people poured out of the exit of the station, and Chu Xia quickly said, Erniu, watch carefully, don't miss it. Furthermore, there was another car driving from my hometown at 9 o'clock in the evening. They couldn't have come that late. Did they miss it? Until the crowds dispersed, Zhang Erniu didn't find her parents and grandma. Tears are about to burst out of my eyes. Let's go down and look for it, Chu Xia said as she pushed the door open and got out of the car. Zhang Erniu quickly followed her and Lugo Xiaoxian stopped Lugo Hunky and Lin Wenbin who were about to get off the car. It'll be fine if we just go down there. It'll be too dazzling if you follow us. Brother, haven't you seen the photos of Erniu's parents and grandma? Just take a good look at them in the car. The three girls walked around the station several times. I didn't find the figure I was looking for either. Zhang Erniu was already panicking. For a moment, she thought of all the possibilities, and her voice was filled with tears. My parents wrote a letter and sent a telegram. There is no way they won't come. After thinking about it, Chu Xia said, Erniu, you saw all the people who came out just now. It's impossible to miss them. Or they didn't catch up with the car. How about we wait a little longer? It's really not possible. Come back in the evening, let's see. At this point, that's all it can do. The group of people waited for nearly an hour, and then drove around the neighborhood for several times. In the end, they had no choice but to go home first, otherwise Fat Ant and others would be extremely anxious. As expected, the car drove into the base, and from a distance they saw Fat Ant, Lugo Gangshun and Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe standing at the door of the guest house, looking around. The car door opened, and several people hurriedly welcomed Liao over. After the disappointment, everyone comforted each other. Maybe the tickets were sold out and I bought them for the evening. Throughout the afternoon, everyone was anxious. After dinner, the group rushed to the train station again. This time I waited until early morning, but no trace of the Zhang family was seen. Zhang Erniu almost collapsed. If she had not received the telegram from home, she would not be like this. She emphasized over and over again that her grandma was a person of her word and would never lie to her. Well, do you know anyone there? Chu Xia pulled Zhou Mikang aside and asked in a low voice, if there is no result, everyone will not be in a good mood. I don't know anyone there. After a pause, Zhou Mixang said, in my impression, third uncle has a good classmate who is the county magistrate there. Let third uncle help. Knowing this made Jo Mikang a little embarrassed, but after thinking about it from her perspective, she could understand how Jong Eunryu felt now, so she grabbed Jo Mikang's arm in a flattering way. Thank you for your hard work. Jo Miksang glared at her dissatisfied, turned around and walked out. Chu Xia quickly followed up, I know I shouldn't be polite to you, but I can't find the right words to express my feelings now. If you can't find it, don't talk. Okay, I shut up. After walking in silence for a long time, Chu Xia suddenly slapped her forehead. Hey, why didn't I see eldest brother? Just found out. Jo Mikang looked at her with a smile. How sad would Lin Wenbin be if he heard what you said? Don't talk nonsense, Chu Xia glared at him. Let's talk about business. When we were walking to the guest house, he met an acquaintance, a female soldier. Female soldier, Chu Xia's eyes widened. You mean, eldest brother met his old sweetheart here? I don't know about that. Jo Mikang looked at him helplessly. I just met a female soldier and we went out to chat for a while. How come we became old friends? Chu Xia curled her lips and said, with my eldest brother's character, if he wasn't interested in the other party, he wouldn't have run away quietly for so long without showing up. Jo Mikang couldn't help teasing her, are you feeling a little sad? What am I so upset about? I wish my eldest brother would find a sweet girlfriend as soon as possible. He is already a grown man. He is always single. How can the elders rest assured? Jo Mikang. He really couldn't handle it when his little wife spoke in this tone. My grandma is a person who keeps her word. It's impossible for her to stop coming for no reason. Jong Eunryu kept repeating this sentence over and over again. After trying to persuade her for a long time, everyone could no longer find any words to persuade her. Moreover, everyone was worried and could not find any strong reason to persuade her. Helpless, Luo Zioxian looked at Luo Hunky. Brother, why don't you ask for leave and go back with your sister-in-law? It's not a problem to wait like this. Yes, go home and take a look. Don't make sure anything really happens, the fat ant also said quickly. With this idea, everyone felt that this was the best way. After a while, it was decided that Luo Hunky and Jong Eunryu should rush back to Jong Eunryu's hometown to take a look. As for asking for leave, Jo Mikang was there. Although I was sorry to trouble him, at this time, this was the only way. When the two left, they went out quietly. Everyone's minds were on Jong Eunryu and they didn't notice it at all. Now they want to find someone for help, but they can't find it. I looked for Lin Wenbin but couldn't find him. Knowing that the three of them could not leave quietly and must have thought of other ways, everyone's mood became a little calmer. Over there, after Jo Mikang quarreled with Uncle Joe, he first apologized to him, then explained the current situation, and made it clear that if it wasn't an emergency, he would never do this if something happened. Kind of let him ask for help. Uncle Joe immediately said that he would immediately find his old classmates. Then, about 10 minutes later, Uncle Joe called back and said that his old classmate had called the commune director and asked them to wait. 10 minutes later, Uncle Joe called again, saying that the director of the commune had driven overnight to the village where Jong Eunryu's home was located. The waiting time was relatively long this time. It took a full half an hour for the phone to ring again, saying that the village chief told the commune director that when the Jong family went to catch the train, the tractor overturned. Mrs. Jong was not seriously injured, but Jong my father broke his thigh and is currently in the county hospital. After thanking Uncle Joe, Jo Mikang and Chu Xia hurried back to the guest house. People in the room were looking around eagerly. When they saw the two people coming in, they all stood up unconsciously. Eunryu. Chu Xia told Jong Eunryu the news she had just found out. By the time she finished speaking, Jong Eunryu was already crying. I knew something must have happened. Otherwise, it would have been impossible not to come on, my grandma must have sent a telegram, and I will definitely receive the telegram early tomorrow morning. Okay, don't wait for the telegram. Zhou Mikang looked at Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan. Father, mother, originally we had to go back in the next few days, why not leave now tonight, just in time to get Luo Hunky and Zhang Ernio. Sending it back is just a matter of traveling a little longer. If there is anything you can do to help, we can still help. Of course, Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan had no objection to this. The couple looked at each other and agreed. Seeing that Luo Gangshun and Fat Ant were hesitant to speak, Zhou Mixang said, Uncle Luo, Aunt Xiao, if you also want to go together, just ask Lin Wenbin if you can come together. How can one car carry so many people, no less? The couple discussed in a low voice, and Luo Gang said obediently, let's go by train. Just at this time, Lin Wenbin also rushed back and asked casually, where should I take the train? Chu Xia told him what happened just now. I'll go with you. Lin Wenbin looked at Luo Gangshun and Fat Ant seriously. In Chu Xia's heart, you and the second uncle and second aunt have similar positions. As her cousin, of course I have to be with her. Let's be filial to you together. Don't be embarrassed to use my ideas. If you are willing to treat me like you treat Chu Xia, I will be very happy. At this point, he couldn't help but add, oh, I mean, when I'm doing things, I'm not talking about anything else. Luo Gangshun looked at him with gratitude, then trouble Xiaolin. Uncle, please take my parents and Chu Xia back to get their things. By the way, I'll tell my family that I'm going to apply for leave for Luo Hunky and Zhang Ernio. After Zhou Mikang finished speaking, he had already left the guest house. Room, Lin Wenbin responded, turned around and walked out. By the time it was dark, the two cars had already arrived at the border of Yunshui County. Yunshui County, where Zhang Ernio's family lived, was more than 100 miles apart from Yunping County, where Chu Xia's family was located. According to the information obtained by Uncle Jojo, Zhang Ernio's father should be living in Yunshui County Hospital, so the group went directly to Yunshui County Hospital. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 650. Seeing the words Yunshui County, Zhang Ernio looked obviously nervous. She was looking forward to seeing her family earlier, but she was also a little uneasy. What if her father's injury was more serious than imagined? Chu Xia, who was sitting next to her, felt her emotional fluctuations and gently stroked her back. As long as the fracture is treated and recuperated, it will not affect her future life. I know, but I'm still worried. Zhang Ernio looked at her with a troubled face. My father has a restless temper. What if the root cause of the disease comes to light? Luo Xiaoxian looked at her seriously. At this time, you have to be idle whether you want to be idle or not. Otherwise, it will be impossible to work hard in the future. Just ask him what he wants to do. It's just a temporary show-off, but I still want to have a job for the rest of my life. He won't listen. My father is like this. As long as he is not allowed to work for a while, he will feel uncomfortable. Chu Xia interrupted her in surprise. There are still people who have this kind of hobby. Isn't this strange? Isn't your Uncle Baohe the same? Luo Xiaoxian curled her lips at Chu Xia. Do you need to look so surprised? If you think about it carefully, it's true that Lin Baohe really has this kind of character. Needless to say, when I was at home, now I am in City A, how can I live idle? Otherwise, I wouldn't be carrying a big broom and going out to clean during the Chinese New Year. Let's persuade him together then. Besides, there's your grandma and your mother. They definitely can't let your father do what he does, Luo Xiaoxian said while curiously sticking her head out and looking out. Chu Xia, why do I feel that Yunshui County is much older than our county? Yunshui County has many heavy industrial companies, but they are relatively old. However, they are richer than our county. Lin Wenbin glanced at Chu Xia from the rearview mirror and said with a smile, Xia, who told you these? You don't have to say it deliberately. When the elders were chatting, I listened and analyzed it myself. Didn't I get the result? Chu Xia stared at him dissatisfied. Brother, in your eyes, am I nothing at all, idiot who doesn't understand? Lin Wenbin quickly shook his head, no, of course I know our Xia understands. I'm just wondering. Generally speaking, girls are not interested in this kind of thing. I'm an exception, okay. Okay, of course. Luo Xiaoqian said with emotion, Xia and I grew up together. Normally, we should know about the same things, but now I feel like she and I grew up in two worlds about many things. I have never heard of it, but she is so proficient. Sometimes I feel that I am so stupid. Zhang Erniu drooped her head and said wiltingly, if you are stupid, then I will be even more stupid and can't stand it. Early summer is different from before, Luo Hunky also concluded. It is indeed different, but this will always be a secret to them. Chu Xia pretended to cover her face in embarrassment, if you praise me like this, I will be embarrassed and change the subject. We are telling the truth, there is nothing to be embarrassed about. Luo Xiaoqian gave her a funny shove. You are really different from before. Let's put aside the past. If you praise you a few times, you will be so happy that you can't find any reason. How can you ask to change the topic? What's in the past is in the past. Can we stop always mentioning which pot is not opened? Chu Xia glared at her, are you deliberately trying to use my previous ignorance to set off your sensibleness? It's okay to set it off. Luo Xiaoqian rolled down the window, stretched out her head to look around, and then retracted with a sniff. I heard that the Chinese New Year in the south is like spring. It would be nice if it was as warm here. You really won't be able to adapt to the south. Lin Wenbin shook his head, I definitely have a say in this. If nothing else, the humidity alone can definitely kill you. Brother Lin, you actually went to the south? Luo Xiaoqian stared at him curiously. I heard that girls in the south are particularly beautiful. Is it true? It can't be said that some girls from the north and girls from the south are good looking, and some are bad looking. It's just that because of the climate, their looks are slightly different. Compared with girls in the south, northern girls are relatively stronger, taller, and have larger faces. As for which girl is more beautiful, it depends on each person's aesthetic taste. I understand. Luo Xiaoqian leaned back, people here definitely don't like southern girls. If they are not strong, they cannot work, and if they have a small face, they are not lucky. Indeed, what she said is true. Many families in the north prefer girls who are tall, strong, and have big faces when looking for wives. Of course, this is also related to the actual situation of this era. Whether they are working in the fields or into work in a factory, it is safer for those who are tall and strong. No. Luo Xiaoqian slapped her forehead fiercely, Brother Lin, do you mean to say that the girls in the south are almost the same as Chu Xia? Chu Xia is not short among northerners, but even if she is a little fatter now, she is not as short as others. Still too slim in comparison. How is that possible? Lin Wenbin glared at Luo Xiaoqian dissatisfiedly, no matter whether you are from the south or the north, there is no way to compare with our Xia. Otherwise, your Commander Zhou will beg for nothing and insist on marrying her. Go home. Luo Xiaoqian glanced at Luo Hunky, who was silent, and said with a wicked smile, Brother Lin, my brother thought that Xia Chang was not good looking at the time. Lin Wenbin snorted coldly, he is the only one who knows what beauty and ugliness are. Zhang Erniu twisted her body uncomfortably. Yes, it's a disaster for the fish in the pond. Chu Xia glared at Luo Xiaoqian, you have nothing to do, so you can use me to entertain yourself. Is it appropriate? As soon as the words came out, Luo Xiaoqian also realized that she had gone too far, and quickly made amends. Brother Lin, I don't agree with what you just said. It is precisely because of different aesthetics that everyone can find their suitable partner. Just like me, Chusia and Er Niu, each represents 3 different looks. At the same time, it can also be liked by people with 3 different personalities and different aesthetics. It is precisely because of this that we can become friends. Lin Wenbin glanced at her lightly and said nothing. However, the chatting along the way made Zhang Erniu feel more relaxed, and the atmosphere in the car was no longer so solemn. Zhang's wife got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. After washing, she fetched water for her husband to wipe his face and hands, and then quickly took the lunch box and went to make breakfast. There were meat buns in the cafeteria. She went there late yesterday and failed to grab them, so she made up her mind to grab 2 today to satisfy her husband's craving. As a result, it was a step too late. Looking at the empty cage, she looked disappointed. I had no choice but to buy 2 vegetarian steamed buns and a bowl of millet porridge and go back to the ward. The sister-in-law came and saw her opening the lunch box. Her face turned dark immediately. Sister-in-law, my brother is injured now. How can you only feed him this black bread? I wanted to make meat buns, but they're gone. Zhang's wife sighed as she said, I'll get up earlier tomorrow morning, Zuzu. I'll just make do with it today, and I'll definitely make some meat stuffing for you tomorrow. Same. Zhang Lizu smiled at his wife and looked at his sister, this is good enough. Don't you just eat steamed buns at home? Seeing that there were only 2 buns in the lunch box, he frowned. Xiangfen, how can these 2 buns be enough? I ate too much last night, so I'm not hungry, Zhang's wife said, swallowing quietly, and then looked at her sister-in-law. Li Mei, have you eaten? Eat half a sweet potato. Zhang Li Mei stepped forward with a cold face, picked up the lunch box and handed it to her brother. Eat quickly, you are a working person, and I can't bear to let you eat something delicious at this time. Li Mei, it's not like you don't know our family's situation. If your sister-in-law had money, would she be able to do this? You heard her say she wasn't hungry, but she was actually saving food for me. She just ate it last night. I bought a piece of cold pancake. How can I not be hungry at this moment? Zhang Lizu said and sighed, your sister-in-law will suffer a lot when she marries me. With this injury, I won't be able to earn any work points for many days. Oh, if I had known, I would have. I won't go with you. Your nephew still wants to marry a wife this year. How can you deal with this? What I'm worried about now is that if my daughter knows that I broke my leg, she won't want to marry into our family. It's hard to find someone who doesn't mind that our family is poor. If something like this happens to me again, this person's life will be ruined. Why? Zhang Li Mei is a talkative person. She knows everything about her eldest brother's house and her sister-in-law Li Xiangfen's temper. She just sees her eldest brother injured like this and her sister-in-law still being so picky, and she feels sorry for her eldest brother. When her eldest brother said this, she felt a little guilty towards her eldest sister-in-law. Speaking of which, her eldest sister-in-law had really suffered a lot since she married into this family. If my mother hadn't been a sensible person, I wouldn't have been able to tell whether my sister-in-law would have survived to this day. Fortunately, her niece is now promising. After sighing, Zhang Li Mei took Zhang's wife's hand and said, sister-in-law, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I just feel sorry for my brother. Look at how thin he is. I know, Zhang's wife nodded repeatedly. Brothers and sisters, you are the most important to your brother. I know that our family has always talked about you before. I thought that when life is more comfortable, I will give you more. I would like to reply a little, so that you can speak more easily in front of your husband's family, but who would have known that your eldest brother is involved in such a mess again? I told your eldest brother last night that we are both destined not to worry about wealth and not to be open to good deeds. When life finally gets better, something will happen to us. Hey. If Dabeo is implicated again this time, what hope do we have? Sister-in-law, I don't think that girl is a heartless girl. She probably won't be. Besides, our eldest daughter needs to have someone who is good-looking, able to work, and has a good personality. What else is she looking for? Like. There is also our second girl, who will be eating the national food from now on. How can she not help her brother when she is well? If that girl is not confused, she must not throw away this marriage. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 651. The sister-in-law's persuasion finally made Zhang's wife's gloomy mood clear, and there was a smile on her face. It would be great if I dare to fall in love like you said. However, even Ernie must be anxious, the telegram will not arrive until tonight, and the child must be worried about us. Hey, this was originally a happy event, but it turned out like this. It's not what you think. Thinking on the bright side, maybe the eldest brother escaped the big disaster with a small injury this time, and he will live a good life in the future, Zhang Limei said while looking at Zhang Lizu. Brother, what do you think I said? Makes sense. Well, that makes sense. People say that if you lose money, you will avoid disaster. My minor injury can be regarded as avoiding disaster. This is not a minor injury. It will hurt your muscles and bones for 100 days. I'm fine. Zhang Lizu waved his hand. I have a strong body. I can earn work points in a month at most. The weather will be warm by then. If I move more, I will definitely recover quickly. Brother, when will you change your restless temper? Zhang Limei looked at her eldest brother speechlessly. No matter how stubborn you are, you can't be cured in a month. Anyway, I was determined not to do it. When I came here, my mother also told me to let you rest in peace and recuperate. From now on, the second and fourth brothers will help with the household chores, and I will go and help when I have time. As for the work points, each of our families is allowed to contribute a little, which will definitely be enough for you and your sister-in-law to live on. Besides, your sister-in-law can still earn some work points. Brother, you can't be stubborn this time. This is a lifelong event. If you don't take care of it well, you will really not be able to live your life as you get older. You said you would wait until Dabeo got married. If your body is aching here and there all day long and you can't help him, will you feel better? So brother, you have to think like this now. You have to lie down for 3 months so that you can be tough for the next 30 years. Zhang's wife quickly echoed, what Li Mei said is that you can't rush to work. If you have our mothers in your heart, you can't take your own body seriously. You two sang in harmony. Zhang Lizu handed the lunch box to his wife. I'm not hungry today, so you and Li Mei eat the rest. There were only 2 buns in total, and he ate half of them. When he was strong, even if he was injured, he would not be able to eat such a small amount. Zhang's wife stuffed the lunch box back into his hand with dissatisfaction. If you want to feel better early, eat well. I'm really not hungry. I'll have lunch soon. I'll just eat more then. How could you not be hungry? Zhang Lizu looked helplessly at his wife. Do you think you are made of iron? How about I eat half of this? You and Li Mei will share half of the remaining one. Brother, I'm not hungry. I was angry with my sister-in-law for saying that I ate half a sweet potato. In fact, I also ate a pancake. Zhang Limei took out a paper bag from her bag and said, Mom, let me. The pancakes I brought to my sister-in-law are still warm. He handed them to Li Xiangfen. There are also the pickles you like to eat. My mother-in-law is so kind to me. Li Xiangfen sniffed hard. With a happy face, I will marry the Zhang family in this life. It is a great blessing. If I have the next life, I will marry the Zhang family. The patients in the next bed and their family members who were accompanying them had been watching the family making concessions, and now they all showed understanding smiles. No matter how poor or miserable life is, they know how to understand each other. Don't worry about not having a good life. Is Comrade Zhang Lizu here? At this moment, a man in his 40s appeared at the door, looking at the number on the bedside, and finally his eyes fell on Zhang Lizu. You are Zhang Lizu, right? I am Zhang Lizu. Hello, hello. The man stepped forward, took his hand and shook it affectionately, and shouted behind him, come in. A woman about 40 years old came in, holding a steaming lunchbox in her hand. She smiled at Zhang Limei and Li Xiangfen and put the lunchbox on the bedside table. These are freshly steamed meat buns. They are delicious. You hurry up and eat. A few people just stood there. They had no relatives or friends here. How could they dare to take advantage of this sudden good thing? Did you find the wrong person? Zhang Lizu asked tentatively. I am Zhang Lizu from Zhangjia village, Hongxing commune. I'm looking for you. The man smiled at him. I am Li Aiguo, the director of Hongxing commune, and this is my lover Lu Qiling. The director of the commune came to deliver food to him. Unable to figure out the situation, Zhang Lizu panicked and wanted to sit up, but his legs were still hanging. If he moved too hard, he groaned in pain, and beads of sweat immediately appeared on his forehead. Brother, don't worry, don't worry. Zhang Limei quickly supported him and said to Zhang's wife, sister-in-law, please find a doctor quickly. Then he looked at Li Aiguo and Lu Qiling. Why are you so nice to my brother? It should be true. As a member of the Red Heart commune, of course I have to be concerned. We have heard about the situation at your eldest brother's house. This is a mistake in our work. Director Li had just taken office, so none of the Zhang family knew him. Now that I heard what he said, I was right. The previous commune director's surname was Fang. Director Fang was a big help when Zhang Ernia was able to serve in the army. The Zhang family has always been grateful to Director Fang. After he resigned, Zhang Lizu made a special trip to visit him. Or maybe it was because he had such a good impression of his predecessor that he always had emotions towards his successor. In his opinion, Director Fang retired early because Director Li took Director Fang's position. It's just that he is a common man. He can't help him if he wants to think about it. The only thing he can do is not to inquire about the new director's situation. Unexpectedly, the other party came over like this. This made Zhang Lizu puzzled. All in all, his daughter was promising, but she was not something the commune would take seriously. Then what was the reason for the other party to treat him like this? Even though he is a common man, he also knows that being courteous for nothing will bring about no good results. At this time, the attending doctor came in and saw several people surrounding the bed. He frowned and stepped forward to check the plaster on Zhang Lizu's leg. He snorted coldly, if you still want this leg, don't mess with it anymore. Moved. Yes, 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 Zhang Lizu responded quickly. You guys, don't make the patient too excited. What he needs now is to rest peacefully. The doctor sniffed and said, don't let the patient eat too much meat or other things. When Li Aiguo heard this, he understood immediately and hurriedly handed over the lunchbox. Doctor, are you hungry too? These are the dumplings made by my lover, please try them. The doctor glanced at him lightly, turned around and walked out. Li Aiguo winked at his wife, and Lu Qiling quickly followed her out with her lunchbox in her arms. When the other party walked away, he looked back at Zhang Lizu. Brother, your injury is important. I'll ask your sister-in-law to make dumplings for you later. We can't offend the doctor. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 652. Please remember the website address of this website. Please recommend promotional introduction to your QQ group Weibo/WeChat forum post bar. First update. No. No, 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 I'm not hungry for dumplings. Director, don't worry about me. Zhang Lizu waved his hands anxiously. Director, you are so busy. How can you do it if you don't get enough rest? Brother, you are not serious. Li Aiguo sat beside his bed, held his hand, and said earnestly, Your comrade Zhang Ernio is the pride of our commune. In order to allow her to work in the army with peace of mind, we to win glory for our Red Heart commune, as the director of the commune, of course I must solve all her worries. Zhang Lizu is honest, but not stupid. His daughter is just an ordinary soldier. No matter how outstanding she is, it is impossible for the director of the commune to take her so seriously. He couldn't understand the situation now, but he believed that there must be twists and turns that he didn't know about. Whether it was related to his daughter or not, he couldn't owe too many favors without knowing it. Director, I am grateful from the bottom of my heart for the care given to Ernio in the commune, but we cannot help but realize that if all the soldiers in our commune are like this, how can you, Director, have the energy to do anything else? My wife is here, and my sister comes here from time to time. I also have my second and fourth brothers at home. Director, don't worry, we can take care of ourselves. Families of military personnel are different. They have high consciousness. Lieguo patted Zhang Lizu on the shoulder and laughed. Your sister-in-law's natal family is in the county and lives not far from here. You don't have to use it for food during this period. Worry about it. Lieguo is more like this. Zhang Lizu felt increasingly unsure, and he had to figure out that Lieguo had made up his mind to take care of him. Could it be because of my daughter-in-law? Zhang Lizu was shocked. As far as he knew, Lieguo's son seemed to be about the same age as his own son, and he was not married yet. Could it be that the Li family's son was also chosen as his prospective daughter-in-law? Except for this, he couldn't think of any other reason. Although I think the possibility of winning a daughter is higher, but the daughter is an ordinary soldier, it is impossible for the other party to win. Could it be that his own daughter was hit? He wanted his daughter to marry his son? In an instant, Zhang Lizu confirmed his guess. He believed that his daughter was more likely to be married than his daughter-in-law. However, if this is the case, it can be considered a good match. Zhang Lizu felt at ease. He smiled at Lieguo and became a little affectionate. I'm sorry to trouble you so much, Director. Director, you are so approachable. This is the blessing of our Red Heart commune members. Yours. We're seeing each other now, aren't we? Lieguo smiled and snuggled closer to him. Your sister-in-law is staying at her parents' house during this period. If you want to eat anything, ask her to cook it for you. What's the problem? Talk to her and ask her to call me to inform me. In short, brother, you don't have to worry about anything until you recover from your injury. Thank you. Director Zhang Lizu thanked him and said to his wife and sister who were standing aside blankly. Why are you two just standing there like wooden piles? Why don't you thank the director quickly? Thank you, Director Li. Zhang's wife and Zhang Mei said at the same time. Brother and sister. Sister, you're welcome, you're welcome. Lieguo waved his hands to the two of them. Sit down quickly, don't be so formal, just think of me as the big brother of the village. Director. Zhang Limei smiled gratefully at Lieguo. You are such a good leader, as good as Director Fang. Lieguo's eyes flashed imperceptibly, and then he smiled heartily. As a public servant of the people, it is the greatest recognition for me to receive such a review. Thank you, Zhang. At this moment, Li's wife Lu Qiling came back with a lunchbox and smiled at Zhang Lizu and others. Don't worry, Dr. Luo will definitely do his best. I asked him, Zhang, you only need to take care of your legs well, there won't be any impact at all in the future. Zhang Lizu smiled gratefully. Thank you, sister-in-law, for taking the trouble. After taking a look at the time, Lieguo stood up. I have to go back to work. Guoling, you can also go back and prepare lunch. He turned to Zhang Lizu and said, what do you want to eat? Ask your sister-in-law to go back and cook it for you. No, we can buy food from the canteen. How can that be done? Lieguo glared at him. Have you met your eldest brother again? Then. Zhang Lizu and his wife and sister looked at each other and said awkwardly, "Then trouble sister-in-law, we can eat whatever we like, whatever we like." Li Aguo said to his wife, "Then you can make arrangements." "Okay, I know, don't worry, I will definitely take care of this." After sending Li Aguo and his wife away, Zhang Limei turned to Zhang Lizu and Li Xiangfen with a puzzled look on her face. "Brother, sister-in-law, what kind of evil are you doing? After he took office, no one was good to him. Why did he suddenly change his personality?" Li Xiangfen guessed, "I suspect that someone who took his position and wanted to pull him down deliberately released the wind. In fact, it was to wrongly accuse Director Li." Zhang Limei's brows were still furrowed. "We have no connection with each other, so he can't go beyond this level of kindness to us, right? Ernio is promising, but we shouldn't let him be like this, right? I think." Zhang Lizu made his guess. The two women frowned and pondered for a long time, and they also felt that Zhang Lizu's point was reasonable, but Zhang Limei couldn't help but hesitated. "But brother, if he really means that, what should we do? Really make the decision for Ernio? We can't make the decision for Ernio. Now, tell Ernio the truth and let her make her own decision." After a faint sigh, Zhang Lizu continued, "It's just our wild guess. Maybe it's not like this. Quilling, can you please get in touch with me? I've been giving them delicious food in various ways these days. If you eat people, they will definitely speak for us after leaving the hospital door," Li Aguo said. He warned his wife with a serious face. "I know, you've done this for more than 10 times, so you can't trust me." Lu Quilling stared at him dissatisfied. "If you and I were ignorant, how could we have been busy with your temper all night last night?" Li Aguo quickly smiled to please his wife. Yes, it is my greatest blessing, Li Aguo, to be able to marry such a reasonable wife as Comrade Lu Quilling." "That's pretty much it." Lu Quilling rolled her eyes at him and couldn't help but said, "Are you really sure that their daughter has met a big shot? Can we really get into their family's glory? If you don't know a big shot, how can you call him in the middle of the night to inquire about his home? That's the county magistrate's personal inquiry. If you don't mind, at that time, the county magistrate will inquire about such a thing." "Then do we need to go to the county magistrate?" Lu Quilling asked. "No need." Li Aguo shook his head. "Don't deliberately dazzle in front of the leader. If you do it quietly, the leader will appreciate it from the bottom of his heart after he knows about it." "Okay, you can do it. I'll go back and catch up on some sleep and make lunch for them and send it over. Let mom give you time, don't go too far, do your best, and show our sincerity," Li Aguo warned uneasily. Lu Quilling stared at him dissatisfied. "If you are so worried again, I don't care." Okay, it's all my fault." Li Aguo smiled flatteringly at his wife. "Go back and explain it to Dad for me. I'll go to his old man's house again after I've been busy for a while." "I know." Lu Quilling rolled her eyes at him, waved her hand, and went to the station. After his wife disappeared, Li Aguo walked towards a dilapidated jeep, which was the only decent means of transportation in the commune. Although there was internet everywhere, it was still more comfortable than riding a tractor. Li Aguo is 42 years old. His family is from Hongxing Commune. After graduating from high school, he passed the county examination and was assigned to Lu Kaijin, who was the chief of the security department at the time. Li Aguo was a good talker and good at winking, and he quickly gained the appreciation of Lu Kaijin. Later, he married his daughter to him. He originally thought that he would be able to benefit from his father-in-law's glory and develop his ambitions, but unexpectedly, he was about to quit. His father-in-law was on the wrong team. He was also demoted due to the implicated situation. Fortunately, his father-in-law still had some connections, so he worked hard and was finally assigned back to his hometown, Hongxing Commune. Therefore, no matter whether he is lucky or unlucky, he must be grateful to his father-in-law for the rest of his life. although he himself feels that even without his father-in-law, it may not be worse than it is now. Not 5 minutes after the dilapidated car swayed out of the hospital gate, 2 military green off-road vehicles drove into the hospital courtyard. The people in the car were Chusia and others. Jong Eunryu jumped out of the car and ran to the hospital area impatiently. Knowing that she was worried about her father's safety and no one cared about her rudeness, Chusia and Luo Xiaoxian quickly followed. Zhou Mikang and Lin Wenbin helped take down various gifts before walking to the hospitalization area with everyone. Zhang Lizu was lying on the bed with his eyes closed and concentrating. Zhang Limei and Li Xiongfen sat on the bed and chatted at the end. Both of them had worried looks on their faces. Although they figured out why Li Aguo was so good to them, they still felt a little uneasy. They were cheated. Eunryu, is this the extent of pleasing you? But the two women thought about it over and over, but could not come up with a more suitable reason. They were so entangled that they heard the sound of my rapid footsteps. As a reflex, the two of them raised their heads, and Zhang Lizu on the bed also opened his eyes and walked over. "Dad, how are you? Are you still hurting?" Zhang Eunryu ran in hurriedly, looking at her father who was staring at her in a daze with wide eyes. She wanted to reach out and touch her, but she didn't dare, so she followed behind. Chu Xia, who came in, was overjoyed and reminded, "Eunryu, uncle hurt his leg, not his arm. If you think the website is good, please share this website. Thank you readers for your support. Fast updates, no pop UPS plain text. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 653. Because the two families formally met for dinner in the evening, Johan came back from get off work early in the afternoon to pick up Lin Li, Lin's father, Lin's mother, and the others to the hotel. As for the hotel yesterday, Joe's mother called early in the morning and said that it had been booked. By then, they just go there. Johan had called Lin Li in the afternoon to inform her of the evening time and the place to eat, so when he drove back from the company, Lin, father, and mother were all ready and ready to go out at any time. Johan asked Father Lin and Mother Lin to sit in the living room for a while he put his briefcase in the study room and prepared to go back to the room to change clothes before going out. Johan took out the previously matched clothes from the cloakroom and put them on the bed. Johan took off his suit jacket and was about to change clothes. But then he reached out to unbutton the collar of the shirt, and the door of the room was opened from the outside. Lin Li glanced at the living room at the door to make sure her parents didn't look in her direction, then she came in sneakily and locked the door. When he turned around again, he happened to look into Johan's eyes that were half smiling but not smiling. Johan looked at her funny. After getting along with her for the past 2 days, he discovered that this woman also had such an interesting childish side. He thought she was just a person who pretended to be strong and suppressed her emotions. It turned out that she could be stupid sometimes, and stupid people it looks very interesting and cute. Lin Li glared at him and walked towards him. Without waiting for him to speak, she asked directly, "What did you say to my mother this morning?" Johan raised his eyebrows at first, then as if thinking of something, he nodded clearly and said calmly, "Oh, you know." His tone was as calm as if he was not talking about his own business. After saying that, he turned around and let her continue to unbutton his shirt. Lin Li stared hard, and said dissatisfiedly, "Why are you talking nonsense to my mother? Don't you think things are messy enough?" She felt that she was simply set up by him and was restricted in every way. Obviously this show for her parents is supposed to go according to the development she wants, but now, she can only passively follow his footsteps, and she never knows whether he will suddenly appear somewhere. She would add a scene in one place, or suddenly change the scene in another place. She is not a professional actor, where does she get the ability to adapt to changes? Johan turned his back to her and did not turn around. He only said, "Your mother asked me, so I answered this way." While speaking, he did not stop moving his hands. "Then why do you say that I don't want to be disturbed by you and insist on sharing a room?" It was better for him to say this, and directly put all the responsibility on her, and he felt relaxed. Johan turned his head, and all the buttons of the shirt were unbuttoned. He took off the shirt and threw it on the bed, revealing his well-maintained figure. Johan had a good figure, not fat but strong, with bronzed skin. Very tight. Even in the lower abdomen, you can clearly see the abdominal muscles, which are as sexy as those seen in the gym. When Lin-Li was still stunned by his figure, Johan had already approached her, staring straight at her, and asked, "Then what should I say? Tell them the truth that we are just fake husband and wife, just acting to make them feel at ease." Lin-Li swallowed her saliva and her reaction became a little slow. She could only speak subconsciously and said, "Of course not." Johan smiled, looked down at his body, a hint of cunning flashed in his eyes, and then raised his eyes again with the same deep eyes. He took another step closer to her and asked, "Or do you actually mind if you want to sleep with us?" He approached, and Lin-Li backed away. She had no time to think about what he had just said. In the end, he was forced to retreat with no way out. Then she looked up at him, swallowed and asked, What? What did you just say?" Johan stretched out his hand against the wall, trapping her between the wall and himself. With a slightly evil smile on his lips, he deliberately lowered his voice and said, "I said you want to sleep with me." Lin-Li was stunned for a moment, as if she was thinking about what he meant by what he just said. She took a moment to react, looked at her with a red face and wide eyes and said loudly, "How is that possible?" Johan smiled, deliberately teasing her, and asked, "Really don't want to?" As he said that, he deliberately leaned closer to her. This time Lin-Li was not tempted by beauty. She pushed him away and said righteously, "Of course I don't want to, I'm not crazy." Johan was pushed away by her and took a few steps back. He shrugged with a smile and said, "That's a shame." Lin-Li's face was still a little red. She glanced away and didn't look at him. She just said coyly, Why are you taking off your clothes?" Johan turned around, took the shirt he had taken out of the closet and put it on himself. While buttoning the buttons, he said, "Change your clothes naturally." He didn't feel embarrassed at all. Lin-Li didn't speak again, standing there thinking about waiting for him to change clothes before warning him not to talk nonsense in front of her parents. When Johan put on his shirt and turned around, he saw her squinting her head and staring at the TV hanging on the wall. Her ears seemed to be red because of embarrassment. The corner of his mouth was half raised, and he kindly reminded her towards her back, "Aren't you going to go out?" "I'm going to change my pants." Hearing this, Lin-Li hurried out of the room without looking back, and the door slammed shut with a swift movement. In the room, Johan looked at the closed door for a long time and shook his head with a smile. Lin-Li's face was still very hot after she came out. When Lin's mother saw it, she couldn't help but asked worriedly, "Xiao Li, why is your face so red? Are you feeling unwell?" Lin-Li hurriedly shook her head and said with a dry smile, No. I'm a little hot, just a little hot." As she spoke, she used her hand as a fan and fanned herself desperately. The place where the two families met for dinner in the evening was booked by Joe's mother. It was booked in a 5-star hotel, and she had a private room. She specifically asked the kitchen to cook the dishes according to the taste of Lin-Li's hometown. In order to prepare for tonight's meal, Joe's mother went to the hair salon to have her hair done in the afternoon, and reminded Joe's father no less than 3 times a day to make time in the evening and not to be busy with social activities. When Johan drove Lin-Li and the others over, Joe's mother and father had already arrived with Joe Jiabin's friends. As the hotel manager smiled and talked to Johan, he led them towards the VIP room. Mother Lin, who was following behind, pulled the corner of Father Lin's clothes and whispered in Father Lin's ear, "Why do I feel that this week? Why is my family not an ordinary family?" Father Lin didn't look at her, just nodded and responded softly, "No matter how special we are, we will only be in-laws from now on." Mother Lin didn't say anything more. She understood what her husband meant. It didn't matter to them what kind of family the Zhou family was. They just married their daughter off, as long as they treated Lin Li well. The hotel manager opened the door himself and said to Johan with a smile, Mr. Zhou and the others are already inside, so I will arrange to go to the kitchen to serve you food." Johan nodded towards him and said, "Trouble?" The hotel manager nodded with a smile on his face and said, "That's right. I wish you a pleasant meal." Then he turned and left. Johan turned sideways and said to Father Lin and Mother Lin, "Dad, Mom, let's go in." Father Lin nodded and went into the private room with Mother Lin. When Johan turned around and wanted to go in, he was caught by Lin Li on the side. She leaned over and whispered a warning in his ear, "Don't talk nonsense later." Johan glanced at her and just smiled without saying a word. As soon as Mother Lin and Father Lin entered, Mother Zhou stood up to greet them, with a smile on her face and said, "Dad, Mother, in-laws, you are here, come here quickly, come here and sit down, come here and sit down." He took Mother Lin's hand and led her towards the dining table. Father Zhou also stood up to greet him, and nodded to Father Lin with a smile that he usually didn't have much on his face. Before Mrs. Lin came, she was a little worried that it would be too embarrassing if she got angry. She didn't know what to say when they sat together, but she let go within a few minutes of it, because Mrs. Zhou is a person who loves to talk and laugh. The scene had not been quiet since they came in. They asked Mother Lin to talk about homely things, and the atmosphere immediately became lively. Father Zhou has been a leader for a long time, and his serious face is a little hard to smile, but he really values his future in-laws. Although the smile on his face is not too stiff, at least his attitude is sincere. After the meal, the anger was very harmonious. At the end of the conversation, Zhou's mother said that the issue of Lin Li and Johan's wedding came up. According to her and Zhou's father, they wanted to hold a wedding for Lin Li and Johan, because they always felt that Lin Li Yuan had already wronged Lin Li by marrying to Zhang Cheng. It was too wrong for Lin Li that she still didn't have a decent wedding. They treated the daughter-in-law of their Zhou family as their own daughter and wanted to give her what she deserved. In fact, when Father Lin and Mother Lin heard what the Zhou family said, they no longer had any worries about Lin Li when marrying their daughter. They could get a good son-in-law and a good husband-in-law. What more could they ask for? As for the wedding, it doesn't matter whether we want it or not. Mother Lin smiled and took Mother Zhou's hand, and said sincerely, "My mother-in-law, with your words, we two elders have nothing to worry about. Our Zili will trouble you in the future." Zhou's mother also hugged her back and said with a smile, "Look at what you said, we are all one family, we are all one family." Mother Lin also laughed, turned to look at Lin Li and Johan, and said, "As for the wedding, I have no objection. If they young people want to do it, of course it is best. If they really find it troublesome, we should respect them." Hearing this, everyone looked at Lin Li and Johan. Lin Li smiled dryly and turned to look at Johan, only to see him eating vegetables with a look of nothing on his face. Zhou's mother noticed the clues and called out to Johan, "Johan." "Huh?" Johan looked up, seemingly a little confused, with a confused look on his face. "You have your say. Should we hold this wedding?" "We can't wrong Lin Li," Zhou's mother said, implying that she wanted him to agree to hold the wedding. Johan nodded clearly and said, "It doesn't matter whether you do it or not. I listened to Lin Li." He looked towards Lin Li with a smile. Lin Li's mouth twitched, and she stretched out her hand under the table and pinched Johan hard. She smiled dryly and turned to Joe's mother and the others and said, I think it's better not to do anything first. Johan's company has been very busy recently. After the wedding, we'll talk about it later. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 654. One update arrived. Xia, does this make you feel uncomfortable? Grandpa Lin looked at Chu Xia and asked with a smile. Yes, after answering without hesitation, Chu Xia added, however, I understand why Grandpa and Grandma do this. Do you really understand? Yes. Silly boy, you actually don't understand. The old man sighed and turned his gaze to Zhou Mikang. Xiao Zhou, can you understand? I can understand it, but I can't accept it. Zhou Mikang looked at him indifferently. All the reasons are from your perspective, but they do not consider the feelings of my father-in-law and mother-in-law. As a large and important family in the capital, there is nothing wrong with you doing this. However, my father-in-law and mother-in-law did not grow up in this kind of family, so it is difficult to truly understand your actions. There is nothing wrong with maximizing interests, but it is a bit chilling to think about it. Your attitude this time is obviously different from the last time. No matter what the reason is, anyway, you are swayed. This is the fact that I see. I don't want to say more about the rest. From my perspective, it is not convenient to say too much. Hey, he sighed heavily, and Uncle Lin smiled bitterly. I understand, if it were me, I wouldn't be able to accept it. However, he finally recognized his ancestors and returned to the clan, and stayed at home for a few more days to get along with relatives. A moment is necessary, so stay here peacefully. I owe you an explanation, and I will give you an explanation, but not now. Mr. Lin, there is actually no need to make it like this. No matter what your difficulties are, you might as well tell them, so that you can use this method to test my father-in-law and my mother-in-law's family during the Chinese New Year. Is there anything else that can't be said? They are all reasonable people, as long as they stand on reason. They will definitely understand, and if you don't say it, it will make them feel even more uncomfortable. If you really say it, it will be good for everyone. Of course, I'm not forcing you to speak out, I'm just talking about the matter. Sometimes, you think it's for the other person's good. But not necessarily. No matter what happens to the Lin family in Beijing, my father-in-law and mother-in-law will not be too involved. There won't be much benefit, so why not let them know? If it's inconvenient because I'm here, I can dodge it, but don't worry, I will never have any inappropriate opinions about the Lin family in Beijing because of this matter. Chu Xia glanced at Zhou Mikang gratefully. She knew very well how precious his words were, and she was just talking in such a long way just to make her parents feel better. It is almost foreseeable that after this time, Lin Baohe will probably never come to the Lin family in the capital again. However, if the uncle's family did this for Lin Baohe's benefit, when things come to light later, Lin Baohe will definitely regret it. Grandpa Lin hesitated for a moment and looked at Lin Zhiling. Seeing that the other person was also hesitant, he sighed, let's finish this matter here first. Okay. He said this while looking at Lin Baohe. Uncle, you make the decision, Lin Baohe said. This is how it is between people. Once there is a gap, it becomes less comfortable to get along with each other. Everyone who had become familiar with each other last time is obviously a little more distant this time. During lunch, everyone was forced to smile, which was different from the laughter last time. Chu Xia understood that something must have happened to the Lin family in Beijing. Otherwise, everyone's attitude wouldn't be like this, or her words at that time were a little hurtful. But she couldn't explain it until the matter was understood. So, simply stay silent. But getting along like this was boring, and she wanted to go back in early summer. It was not convenient for Zhou Mikang to express her opinion on this matter, so she went to Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan to discuss it. The two went back to the room to take a lunch break. They couldn't sleep. They were sitting there in a daze when they heard a knock on the door. Zhao Yulan hurried to open the door. When she saw it was her daughter, she smiled unconsciously. "Why don't you go to bed?" "Mom, I want to go home." Chu Xia looked at Lin Baohe again. "Dad, let's go back, okay?" "Xia, can you hold on for 2 days?" Chu Xia knew that her father would answer like this. "Dad, why do you insist?" The ceremony of recognizing ancestors and returning to the clan was so grand. Everyone knows that your uncle has found the flesh and blood left behind by the Lin family. If you can't see us when you look back, you must think more about it. Your uncle has his difficulties, even if we can't help him, and we can't cause any more trouble for him. Listen to Dad, we will definitely leave in 2 days. If there is still no other way to say it by then, Dad promises you that you will never come to the Lin family in the capital again. Okay, Chu Xia was actually very angry, so she was so anxious to persuade her father to go back. When she came here just now, her thoughts had faded. When Lin Baohe said this, she felt that she was too impulsive. If it was really the uncle who was in trouble, with her father's character, he would feel guilty and unable to forgive himself for the rest of his life. Forget it, it's only 2 days, just keep going. Father, Mom, once you've decided, stop thinking about it. Take a nap peacefully. You have a lot of relatives to meet in the afternoon. I guess you have almost forgotten about it, right? Zhao Yulan smiled bitterly. It's easy for so many people to recognize us. How can it be so easy for us to recognize so many people at once? If we call it wrong, it will make people laugh again. Hey. It's okay, they are not stupid, how can they choose such a reason? If you don't believe it, let them go to our village for 2 days and see if they can recognize everyone who has been there and call them right. Chu Xia burst into laughter. Her father was so calm and decisive as everyone else. Zhao Yulan gave her husband a helpless look. It would be great if everyone thought like you. Forget it, I still have a vague impression. Besides, uncle should remind us. I believe this. My uncle is really close to you. My mother-in-law may have something else in mind. Forget it, no one has such perfect things. I don't want to think about it anymore. Xia, you go back to sleep. Come and call us when you get up. Well, you guys want to sleep too? Chu Xia waved her paw, turned around and left the house. She happened to see Lin Wenjie coming from the corner and faced her face to face. She blushed unconsciously. Chu Xia, haven't you slept yet? Chu Xia smiled at him. No, why didn't you sleep? I'm not sleepy. The boy blushed even more. Chu Xia nodded and walked to her room. Early summer, Lin Wenjie shouted. What's wrong? Chu Xia looked back at him. What's the matter? Third brother, just tell me. It's, nothing happened. After hesitating, Lin Wenjie added, there's just a little bit of matter, let's go to the yard and talk, okay? Okay, Chu Xia responded happily and followed him downstairs to the greenhouse in the yard. This is a glass room built on the left side of the yard. There are some beautiful flowers planted in it. Although it is winter, they are in full bloom. Neither of them had any intention of admiring the beautiful scenery. They went straight to the small table in the right corner of the conservatory and sat down. Immediately, a servant made tea and brought it over. Lin Wenjie waved to her, Mama Li, you can go and have a rest. We can do it ourselves. Yes, third young master. The woman known as Li Ma took 2 steps back, turned around and left the greenhouse. Usually, we brothers like to drink tea and chat here, but under normal circumstances, Wengziu and I are the ones listening to the eldest brother and the second brother bickering. They have been getting along in that way since they were young. Are you going to explain it to me again? Chu Xia looked at him. I believe it. Really, third brother doesn't need to explain this matter anymore. But you and your second uncle and second aunt are not happy, and your Captain Joe should also be unhappy. When Lin Wenjie said this, he looked obviously aggrieved. If it were you, would you be happy? After a pause, Lin Wenjie shook his head. I don't know, but I guess I won't be too happy. Isn't that the end of it? It's Chinese New Year. We encountered such a scene when we came here. If it's normal, that's fine. We are all Chinese. We should understand that no one likes making such a fuss on the third day of the Lunar New Year, right? Especially in a situation like ours, it's easier to think too much, don't you think? Yes. My father and my mother grew up in rural areas and did not receive much education from a big family. Moreover, my father never thought that he would have such an identity, and he never thought that one day he would have to face such a life. Everything came so suddenly, and he finally accepted it, and tried to integrate himself into this family. However, when he arrived here happily, what greeted him was completely different from what he imagined. What do you think he will think now? No matter how nice or flawless the explanation is, he can't really be happy. If his previous living environment was better than ours, or he wouldn't think too much about it, on the contrary, they are two extremes. Do you think he would think too much? If you don't understand, you can think about it for a moment. If you find a girlfriend and her family's conditions are better than ours, and then you go to her house and her family doesn't take her seriously, what would you think? My girlfriend's family is not as well off as ours. After I went there, everyone was very enthusiastic, Lin Wenjie explained with a blushing face. Chu Xia looked helpless. I'm asking you to assume that your girlfriend's family background is not as good as ours. Hey, you look quite smart. Why do you have so much trouble communicating? Are you angry? Lin Wenjie looked at her cautiously. I'm a little nervous talking to you, so please speak slowly and understandably. Don't be angry, okay? What's there to be nervous about? I don't eat people. Chu Xia had a feeling of weakness all over her body. It was too strenuous to communicate on the same frequency band. Is there anything wrong?